Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Valerie and Joseph, for having me. And good morning to everybody. Thanks for having me in your group here. And I guess I'll do just a real quick intro so you know who I am. Try to do it in 60 seconds. So I've been in commercial brokerage since I was 19. I started managing apartments while I was in school. Got my license at 19, started full-time brokerage at 22, commission only. Built a really nice apartment business selling multifamily. I'm headquartered in Atlanta. I'm licensed in 8 Southeast states. I own Bull Realty. I started 27 years ago. We have about 50 people, including brokers, assistants, and folks. And then if you want to get an idea of what we do, bullrealty.com, you can see our website, the kind of properties and services that we do. And then I started a show, America's Commercial Real Estate Show, about 14 years ago when people didn't know what podcasts were. It was on one radio station. It grew to 60 radio stations. We did the first one, though, as a podcast. Then we started videoing them also a few years ago. And we do a show every week. It's free. It's on your podcast app on your phone. It's on YouTube. It's called Commercial Real Estate Show, or America's Commercial Real Estate Show. And then I have a training company called Commercial Agent Success Strategies, where we produced 21 one-hour videos for commercial brokers. And they are available in the cloud, and brokers license them all over the country. And even the most experienced brokers are really surprised by them, because I think a lot of the CE training we get, we all are kind of disappointed in. And what I did when I started in this business, I was, and I saw commission only and sales in it. I started studying salespeople and commercial real estate people all around the country, looking for best practices and design best practices over the years. And I've closed probably about 9 billion in transactions, and then through the show and through the training system and things like this, I kind of give back and share with other folks. These are some of the titles of some of those videos, and some of these are just really awesome. Like Say This, Not That. It's the vocabulary of success in commercial real estate, and closing the bid ask gap, which you have to say very slowly, carefully. But some of these are just really they're all fantastic. So today I'll just go over some ideas to help you become a go-to broker, to be more valuable to clients, to build a successful practice, to organize your business so that you can help more clients and really be more successful. I think number one is really to think about your client and take care of your client. When you put your client's best interest above your own, it helps you make the right decisions. And you're always going to just really be more valuable. Decisions become very easy, and you'll communicate well. One of the things that I like to do is just treat everyone in a transaction the way I'd want to be treated if I was that person, while keeping in mind who my client is. So that's with communications, with disclosures, with information. We all know from these transactions that things pop up during a deal, and you trying to make decisions of what to do and what to say. And I think when you just keep that in mind, that, well, if you were that person, if you were that the legal side, or you were the finance side, you were the buyer, the tenant, whatever it is, how would you like to be handled? I was doing a 20,000 square foot 10-year lease. Lease was taking a long time. I represented the landlord. To give you an example, I found out like a day before the lease was finally going to be signed that an adult establishment was going to open next door to this really high-end furniture store. And I thought, boy, if I don't tell him this is going to be terrible. And even though I represented the landlord, I called the tenant and said, "Hey, I've got some good news for you." "Hey, yeah, what's that?" I said, "Well, you know how this property is going to have really good daytime traffic?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, now it's going to have good nighttime traffic." uh, and I told him what was opening next door, and I was waiting for him to cancel, and there was a silence, and he said, "That's great." So I think, not chasing commissions, but doing the right thing. You're going to make more money when you take care of your client. And at the end of every transaction, whether it happens or not, I think one of the goals should be that everyone involved in the transaction is impressed with your communication, with your style, with your professionalism, with the information you provide, and that'll just really help you grow your business. Number two is education. And some people will ask me, hey, what's the biggest mistake that brokers make in their career? And I think education is number one, because, a lot of folks get their license and go, oh, I'm ready to sell commercial real estate. And I'm like, maybe not. So like Joseph and a lot of you folks, getting your CCIM designation, I think is extremely important, no matter what you do in commercial real estate. They fire hose the information through a funnel. It's great networking. You get to use the site to do business. Half CCIMs are not brokers, so it's great networking. So I think just continually educating yourself. When you look at some of the training, I think of it in like 5 buckets. With number one being sales negotiation. I mean, we're selling all the time. We're selling our services, we're selling our properties and listings. We're also negotiating all the time. So studying that is a very key component. Another thing is analysis and underwriting. We just talked about CCIM. You want to be good at that. And then, the delivery of services, doing what you do well. If it's investment sales, if it's tenant rep, just really studying it and being really good at that. Another bucket of skills to learn is just business generation, learning how to get that business in the door, how to win assignments, attract business. And then I think the last bucket is understanding that you're running a business and run your practice like you're running a business. Even if you're an agent at a small or a big company, you're running your own business and you want to treat it that way. And then a lot of the training sources that are great. I like Mike Lipsy, the Lipsy Company. I like the coaching and things at Rod's Santomassimo's group. And then the Commercial Real Estate Show is a free access weekly show and there's really great people that I interview on there, way smarter than me. So that's a really good source of information that you can listen while you're driving or working out. So to give you an idea, I continually train. I've taken training in recent years on doing stand-up comedy, on public speaking, took classes on hosting television shows, all geared to becoming a better salesperson to help my clients make good decisions. And so I really believe in training. And that's how Commercial Agent Success got going. When I looked at all the training that everyone has, and we have it all, there was a lot of things missing. So I started creating it over the years and perfecting it. And that's how Commercial Agent Success kind of came about. All right. Another thought is to specialize when you can. If you can focus on one sector or service, if you're working in a larger market, what we find is you become way more valuable to clients, and you become very, very efficient. You really reduce your transaction risk. You can attract larger assignments. It's easier to become known and become the go-to broker. And also, I think it makes it really easy during your day to know what you're doing. You can kind of put the blinders on to other sectors and things. If you ever talk to a really successful broker that's in a specialty and you ask them about another sector, and sometimes they go, I don't know, and I don't care. It's like you talk to an office tenant rep in Atlanta, you ask him about the apartment market, he doesn't care and he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to spend time on it. It's just like being a specialist as a doctor or a lawyer. They're just more efficient. And I think when you have an exclusive assignment in your specialty, it really should help you turn into 3 transactions because everything's more efficient. If you think about if you've got a land listing and a lease retail and an office for sale, every call you make and take and the research is laborious. But if you have all 3 of the same thing, then every call you make and take is exciting because you have other opportunities. You're valuable to those people you're talking to. So we find it's extremely valuable in brokerage to specialize when you can. And when I find people that kind of get away from a specialty, it's because they're probably not prospecting enough or prospecting properly. So if you find yourself straying as a broker, think about what you're doing daily for prospecting. Sales and motivation, it's really, really, really key. And when I first got into it, I was young and it kind of scared me because I saw commercial real estate salesperson in the title. And at that age, I had never met a salesperson that I was impressed with, and I thought they were all jerks. So I'm like, well, I don't want to become a jerk, and then being commission only. So I studied sales like I was cramming for exams, and I never stopped doing that. And I think that's the only reason I made it, because I knew nothing about nothing. So I admitted that to myself and studied everything, but sales was just a real big part of it. And one of the things I tell folks is, look, go get the top 10 sales books of all time, not on commercial real estate or the best sellers right now. Think about over time, and don't read them and then give them away. Read them over and over again, however you consume information. Continually do it, because one of the most frustrating things I think in our business for me is when I have really good advice for a client and I can't get them to take it. And then I kind of look back and go, all right, well, what were my questions? What did I understand? How did I communicate? What am I missing that I can't get my client to make a good decision? So I think sales is a really big thing to understand. And when you're looking at folks to come into the business, I think people ask me, well, Michael, what are the traits of people that do well in commercial brokerage? And if you brought me a MAI, CRE counselor, or CCIM who worked for a developer, could do deals inside and out, but they've always been handed transactions. They've never been out there to hunt business. It's really tough for them to get into brokerage and go create business if they have to do that. But if you give me somebody that's been doing B2B sales for 10 years, studied sales, been commission only, that doesn't know a cap rate from a gross rent multiplier, I'd rather have that salesperson, because they just get it. And we have really good training. And when they get it, really good experienced salespeople see the training and it's just aha for them. Where somebody that comes from a more salaried background, like what they just it's harder for them to make that transition. And you keep in mind, we're interrupting busy, successful people, so you want to be good at doing that. Consistent prospecting is a real key. I think one of the examples that really rang true to me was I was on a webinar with Rod Santamonsimo, and he was interviewing a 30-year experienced broker like me, and that broker prospects for new business between 9 and 11 every weekday. And what struck me as interesting was every person on the webinar agent were like, well, what if you have to do this? Or what if you have a closing? Or what if, and just were looking for excuses to really not prospect. And finally he got frustrated and said, guys, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know if I don't do daily consistent prospecting, that my pipeline's going to have holes in it. And if I have a big enough hole, I can have a big problem. So think about how you're prospecting, multiple ways to do it. You're going to have better options, better choices of assignments. You can stay more in your lane where you're more valuable, maybe larger assignments, and you're not getting the crumbs that come to you. You're going after the business and the clients that you want to work with. And then I think a tip there on prospecting is to calendar it, to schedule it, and then have a goal of prospecting contacts that you make, but then have a minimum that you can hit every day, no matter what happens, right? We all get really busy, but if you have a minimum, then it can really be powerful for you when you get into that habit. And we all have good habits. We all have bad habits. If you can make a minimum prospecting a habit each day, you're going to be successful. It's going to work for you. To give you an example, one really lucky day, I had 5 closings of apartment deals in one day. And I came back to my office and I had three assistants that helped me with my practice. And when I came back in, it was about 5:30. I went in my office to do my minimum prospecting. And they came to the door like, Michael, hands on the hips, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm doing my prospecting. I work here. Like, well, we just thought today that maybe you take off early and not, do your prospecting. And I said, look, the way I look at transactions under contract to keep my mind right is that half are going to fall through and half are going to get delayed. And that helps me keep a perspective on it that I really need to prospect every day to keep my business growing and keep it steady. Um, and I have not had another day with five closings ever since then. I'm working on. I'm working on it. One other thing about prospecting you might find interesting is when I'm practice got going really well as an agent, I found that I was having trouble hitting my prospecting numbers because I was busy doing presentations and contracts and tours. And so one thing I found is I was doing a lot of prospecting between 5 and 8 p.m. And I found that was really a wonderful time because one, some of the gatekeepers were gone. Two, some of the clients I was calling on were less harried. They were less busy and more open to talking to me. Third, some of them were impressed. They're like, wait, you're not on the golf course at 3 o'clock? Uh, that's impressive. I want to talk to you. Also, I found I was getting so busy that in my specialty, people, when you work in a specialty, especially in investment sales, I found some of these clients, they just want to talk to you. They know you're talking to the buyers and sellers in the space all the time. They know you're very knowledgeable and can share good information with them. And sometimes they want to talk when they don't really want to do any business. So I also found that evening that I could leave a voicemail message. A lot of times I could have excitement in my tone. I could leave a message that's professionally provocative, that has them that tells them about the opportunity, not enough to know what it is without calling me, but also would let them off the hook. And then, so it might say something like this: "Hey, John, I've uncovered a value add office building. You can get it at a 8 cap on existing income. There's about 30% vacancy, so there's real upside. Looks like something you guys might be able to knock out of the park. So if you're interested in an acquisition or talking about this or selling any properties, let's talk. Here's my number." I'd leave the number slowly. I hate these calls where they talk real slow about the call, and at the end they say, "Call me at 8." I'm like, okay, wait, thank you. But then at the end, I would say, well, look, if you're not looking to do anything right now, look, I know we're all busy. Don't feel like you should have to call me back. I'll stay in touch with you from time to time. And I think that's a very professional way to do it. If you don't want them to call you, really, if they don't want to do anything, you also don't want them to not call you and for either one of you to feel bad about it. And I found that works really well. And then there's no excuse for not hitting your minimum. One more quick on the tip on the minimum. The minimum doesn't have to be a big number, right? Like if you're going to start lifting weights, you're not going to start with a really big number. You're going to build up to it, right? So your minimum can be a low number that no matter what, that you don't go to bed that night without hitting that. So I don't mind a minimum that's like only 5. And your goal might be 10 or 50 or 100, depending on where you are in your practice. But I think the minimum can be a low number so that you hit it every day. Time management, time management becomes very crucial for brokers. I find from, helping our brokers for the last 27 years, and giving them great training as they start getting successful, time management skills become very, very important. When I read about the most successful people, I'm just really bewildered sometimes of how much they do and how much they get done every day. And I'm like, wow, that's just awesome. So I think it's important to study time management skills all the time. Being organized. There's a lot of there's a great book called Time Management for Dummies, and it's got some great tips in it. I think if you want to be successful in brokers or probably really any business, study time management. And this just gives some examples here on the slide. slide deck. Um, One of the things to do is think about what's wasting time and kind of tracking that so that you're working on the things that are most important to your business and your family and future. One of those could be organization or disorganization. Another could be reading emails. Constantly getting emails from agents who can't sell their listings, and so they're clogging up your time. So look at filters. There's another book that I like if you use Outlook for your email and things, a book called Outlook for Dummies. And that gives you a lot of great tips for time management in that regard there. Like, yeah, like templates, using templates inside of Outlook, using filters that go into folders so that you can go look at certain things when you want to. Just take advantage of time management skills. All right, for brokers, another big thing is a CRM. And I like to look at an analogy this way. How many of you ever played the card game called Concentration? It's where you put all 52 cards face down. You pull up two face up and see if they match. If they don't match, you turn them back down. And then you want to remember where they were and you take turns. So you're just matching cards. And if you think about commercial real estate in a little bit, that's what we're doing, right? We're matching buyers and sellers and landlords and tenants. But we don't have to rely on memory. When I first started this business a long time ago, there was a broker in my office who did really, really well. And we did not have personal computers. Okay. We had index cards and just terrible tools, right? Compared to today. But this guy had a memory that was really incredible. He remembered addresses, phone numbers, prices, names, what people owned, what they paid for a property 3 years ago. It was miraculous to me. And what another thing that made it miraculous is this guy had cocktail parties every night, every happy hour. This guy drank like a fish, but his brain was just incredible, and it helped him do so much business. Right? Well, we don't have to drink or have that memory. Now we have CRMs. So one of the things I'd say with CRMs is create custom fields for the way you work and for your specialty. One of the things that we do in investment sales, like I lead a group at my office that sells office buildings. Yeah, you can feel sorry for me now if you want. But and we track every owner, every property, and when we contact folks, we look at the kind of properties geographically, price range, size range, and we click fields for them. So when we have an opportunity, we can just go to there, and without this guy's Boyd's was his name, memory, we can go in and pull a field. We have them. We can shoot them an email. We can call them. We're not spamming people with properties that don't fit their needs. If you have a bulk email list, let's say you sell retail investment properties, multi-tenant, and you have folks who are REITs and private offices, and you have funds and you have individuals, everybody's doing different size deals, right? And if you send a $800,000 strip center to a REIT that only owns $10 million plus grocery anchored centers, they're going to cut you off. They'll know to never use you, and you're spamming them. So think of CRM and using custom fields is a great thing to do. And as you're doing your prospecting, track the number of folks that you put in your CRM and how many you do custom fields. Because if you just dump things in there and you don't have the fields to look them back up, well, you might as well left them in the database you got them in. Some people ask me, what's the best CRM for commercial real estate? And if somebody give me a drum roll here, it's the one you will use. So if you don't use it, it's not going to help you, right? So pick the one you want to use, and there's some examples of some there, but I think you just want to find the one that you'll actually use, and most of them you can go in and check them out a little bit with a trial. Another thing for brokers is to understand that you are running a business. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a Mike Lipsey event at Barber Racetrack in Alabama for the Porsche driving experience. And he invited brokers who net over $1 million a year after their company split And he paid for everything for everybody, food, lodging, all the events. And I was lucky enough to get to go. And we do all the horse driving. It was great fun. But then he'd get us in a group after feeding us and ask us questions. And one that struck out to me, I thought was really interesting. He asked, "Hey guys, how come so many really smart people with great educations get into commercial brokerage and they fail?" And the consensus was interesting. The consensus was it's because those people thought they got a job. They thought they got a job, and they come in, the receptionist comes in, they leave, the receptionist leaves, and they don't understand that they're starting a new business. They're starting a new business that has unlimited income potential. They're starting a new business that potentially they've never been in before. They're competing with companies and people who have a big head start on them. So that they're just not understanding that they've got to run a business like a business, that they're wearing a lot of hats. If you're an agent, you run your own business. You're the CFO, the CEO, your sales, your delivery of services. So you want to run your business and plan it and operate it like a business, including investing in your marketing, investing in your training, and doing the proper prospecting and organization. Another thing that I think is if you look at people, there's a lot of people that come to our country that can hardly speak our language, that don't come here with a lot of money, and then they become our clients later, and they own multiple properties and businesses, and they're successful. And if you talk to some of those people, it's interesting. That sometimes I'll ask them, and I'll hear this, and they say, "Well, yeah, I came here with nothing, and now I own these properties and businesses." And I said, "Well, how did you do that?" And they worked two jobs and studied. And I'm like, "Well, when did you sleep?" "Oh, I slept 2 hours a day." Like, you did? How did you do that? So I think just looking at the value of being a broker and how successful that can be, and it's a wonderful business to me because we have unlimited income potential, and the value we add for clients is just really off the charts. They really love us for what we do, and so it's very rewarding just because we're so valuable and helpful, and people really appreciate us. And then the income potential. Also, it's a little to me like sports. You win, you lose, you compete, you have teams that you're on, you have individual skills. You want to practice and all the time to get better and train yourself. So it's a lot like sports to me, and I've always loved playing sports. So think about it as running a business. Really big thing is integrity. So when I started in the business and started studying all the top producers and how everybody was doing everything, I saw that some of my competitors, my original focus when I started out was apartments, and I saw a lot of my competitors, the way they sold apartments for clients, I thought lacked integrity. I don't think it's the way I'd want my property sold if I was their client. I was getting higher offers and more offers from my clients. In fact, I had a competitor actually list a property he was involved in with me. He knew I was getting more higher and better offers. So I think using extreme integrity in your business will really grow it, and that's and people see it. This can be a small world after all, and so keep that in mind. And if you think about the 4 R's where we get a lot of business: repeat business, reputation, referrals, and relationships. That integrity shows. And it's the reason I started my company. I didn't really want to own a company or run a brokerage shop. I just really like doing deals. And I only started my company because I wanted a company name that was known for integrity. That was it. And so I thought, as these recruiters were trying to get me to come to these big shops because I had a pretty successful practice. When I saw what some of those guys were doing, I'm like, I know you got some great folks, you got a great company, but some of your folks are doing things that I don't think are right. I want to start my own name. Now, would I've probably been way more successful just being a broker at another company? Probably. Running a business is doesn't have the margins and things that you would hope. But a broker, being an agent, has really nice margins. Also, just being professional at what you do, your emails, your close, your car, your discussions, your bios, your social media posts, just thinking about the professionalism, all that can really be helpful. Your offering memorandums, your packages. If you go to bullrealty.com, you look at some of our packages, they're very informative, they're professional, and it really helps build your business. To give you an example, I sold some land in Florida, and I was marketing land in Florida. It wasn't actually sold yet. Got a call from a new client that owned other land in Florida. And he said, "Hey, I saw your marketing, saw the package, and it's incredible. It's beautiful. It really enticed me to want to buy that property. So will you sell mine?" So, just being professional can really add to more business for you. And remember, as you all know, I guess, in commercial brokerage, there's really no requirement for cooperation. So, being professional, being a CCIM, being respectful to people can help other brokers want to work with you and be open to working with you, and not to mention, more importantly, clients. Then I think you want to make sure you have a proper platform and resources. I think one of the mistakes that commercial agents make is thinking that if their company doesn't provide it, then they shouldn't go get it or don't need it when it comes to systems, support, training. And it's absolutely not true. I don't care if you work at the smallest independent brokerage or the biggest national company, they're not going to provide you everything you need to operate your business. So don't be hampered by that. Invest in yourself and in your own business. Like we have a senior housing group, and they need tools and use tools that the rest of us don't need. The multifamily group, the same thing. So it's make sure that you're out there and investing in things, and in the training, in your databases, and there's just some samples of some systems out there that track properties. Retail Lease Track for you guys doing retail leasing, Axiometrics, multifamily, RC Analytics, larger investment property sales. Of course, everybody knows CoStar. Argus, if you're doing institutional quality investment sales, you want to have that. Nick is a senior housing information. So just make sure that you have the right tools. We have all those tools and way more, because we want to have the right tools. I try to run our brokerage like I'd want to run if I'm an agent here. So think about that. If you have a team or you're running a brokerage, if you think about us as a brokerage firm, our brokers are our clients, and then their clients are our clients, and you want them to be providing great services. And then, I had the training there, commercial agent success. Make sure you have a training, just ongoing training all the time. And then questions. I went over a lot of stuff very quickly. So,
No. Yeah, that was awesome, Michael. I hope like I said, I hope everyone was taking notes. We literally could take every single one of your slide and do a presentation on each one. So, and that's gold. I mean, I do more of the investing side. So everything you said, yes, is targeted towards commercial agents today. But if anyone has any other business or the clients that you work with, I mean, everything he touched on fits every business you would ever run. So thank you so much, Michael. That was fantastic.
Yes, I would agree. That was an awesome presentation. Michael, my thing is I'm one of those guys like a one army swift knife. So I need to focus on one thing because I see myself going in different directions. I have clients here, clients there, prospecting there, prospecting here. So I need to focus on one industry, and it's really hard because I'm just trying to make it happen. I see myself as a go-getter, so it feels as though I can juggle. But again, if I'm not focused on one thing, so how did you decide which field you wanted to get into?
Well, that's a great question, and I get from brokers that are starting a practice or trying to get more efficient. I get that question a lot, and sometimes they think of it in terms of what's hot right now. And that's not the way to think about it as a broker, because you're picking a specialty based on your entire career, hopefully. So there's going to be ebbs and flows in every sector or service. So if you're an investor, a developer, or a lender, obviously I would pick your options based on the market and expectations moving forward. As a broker, though, you make money on transactions. To give you an example, in the great financial recession, I didn't think it was that great, but when that happened, I had a friend of mine from New York call me, and he was worried. He was concerned, and he said, Michael, I'm going to call and see, are you guys still open? And I said, yeah, we're open and we're doing really well. And after the silence broke, he said, what do you mean you're doing really well? Commercial real estate's in the absolute tank. And I said, well, we're doing note sales, we're doing short sales, we're doing REO sales, we're helping clients with workouts, and we're extremely busy. So as a developer or lender, you want to watch what's hot. But as a broker, it's really about transaction volume. And then every specialty and service has pluses and minuses. And you just want to think about each one. To give you one example, I think is kind of interesting, the single tenant net lease investment market. The positives are that you rarely have to get off your phone or wherever you are, because one Walgreens looks like another, or dollar stores like another. You can the leases are the leases. There's not a lot of moving parts, so you can do business with brokers of record and teams, all over the country. So you don't have the drive time. You're not going and showing properties and driving around and in traffic. So that can make you efficient. But the downside is other brokers that you compete with can do the same. Like I sold 10 single tenant properties to a family in a 1031, and I think half the listings that were out there were brokers in California and Texas with listings in the Southeast US. Also, because of that, sometimes those commissions will get squashed down. It's more of a commodity, and those commissions can kind of get squashed down. But I think you just want to look at really what you enjoy. Another thing to look at on your specialty is to think about what's in your background that would add value and confidence and ability for you. For example, we have a guy that sells large medical office buildings. We had a background in medical, and he knew that industry. He knew the players. He knew how they interact. He knew how to speak their language. So the medical office buildings was something that he brought that to the table. And I was only with him 6 months. We're sitting with 5 doctors, and I think at that point had 25 years broker's experience. He had 6 months, but when we were sitting there talking to the doctors, they really connected with him more than me because of the medical background. He spoke the language, right? So I think about what you'd enjoy, what you want to do, and don't think that you can't be what you want to be. If you just want to do 10 million plus grocery anchored centers, go do it. Go be that person. You can do it. I think at most any shop, you can do it. You don't have to be at a national brand to do that. You can do that anywhere if you have the right tools and training.